Welcome in to Bears Weekly, powered by IGS Energy, a Chicago Bears network production. Bears Weekly is brought to you by Advocate Healthcare, Athletico Physical Therapy, CDW, Connie's Pizza, IGS Energy, and Miller Lite. Here are your hosts, Jeff Joniak, a.k.a. the Mayor of Bearsville, and his sidekick, Tom the Surfmaster Thayer.
Good to be with you, everybody. Riding a 3-game winning streak. The Bears getting ready to head to Washington, D.C., actually Landover, Maryland, for the matchup against the Washington Commanders. It feels big, Tom Thayer. It feels big here on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. This is Bears Weekly. After a bye and that big win in London, this just feels big now. 4-2, and things headed in the right direction.
4-2, and we've had 2 weeks to talk about it. You know, you always have that feeling when you're on a roll, you'd like to stay on a roll. But fortunately, after the Bears came back from London, they had a little bit of time to readjust and get ready for this 11-game push, because I think the fun of the season hasn't really started yet. It's just kind of pushing that boulder over the hill and waiting for this thing to start gaining some momentum and steam. And there would be nothing better than a victory in Landover, Maryland. Coming
up tonight, we've got a full show, lots to cover, including Jack Sanborn. Sit down with us. We'll hear from the coordinators as per usual. Also a one-on-one with Travis Smith, the Bears defensive line coach, on a vastly improved defensive line, getting contributions from many, and some other surprises along the way as well. Thanks to Justin Pottinger and Matt McMaster in the studios tonight, as well as Dan Brule, Jordan Tredup, and the executive producer of the Bears Radio Network, Eric Ostrowski. Let's dig into the injury report, Tom. Bears perspective, still no Jaquan Brisker or Tyler Gordon. They did not practice the last 2 days, concussion and hamstring, respectively. Tyreek Stevenson, though, on the field, limited with a calf. He missed the London game. Your thoughts on the secondary?
You know, calf and a hamstring, I kind of understand those injuries because of the severity of the pull. It usually takes a little bit of time to recover to get back up to realistic playing strength. My concern is with Jaquan Brisker. If, in fact, he is still in concussion protocol after a 2-week period, I'm concerned about that, because usually these guys are able to bounce back after a 2-week concussion protocol. And, you know, maybe Jaquan will surprise us all and practice tomorrow, get the okay to play on Sunday afternoon, and come back. But the other guys, they're great athletes. And sometimes when you're a great athlete, you have those types of tweaks that take a little while to heal.
All right, there's a full complement of players that practice full today that we have not seen for a while. Cornerback Terrell Smith, defensive lineman Zach Pickens, defensive end Jacob Martin since the first padded practice at training camp. Travis Homer has been on IR with a finger injury, and Scott Daly, the long snapper, missed the most of that game in London after covering a kick. He had a knee injury, but it looks like he's full go. And what are your thoughts on, you know, there's a lot to choose from here if you want to strengthen the depth of the roster with these guys possibly returning.
Well, it makes practice more competitive. If you really want to earn a game day jersey, you can't just go through practices with a lackluster attitude. Jacob Martin has to show some burst off the edge. Travis Homer has to show a little bit of burst from the running back position. Terrell Smith has to show that he's healed up from that hip issue, that he can go out there and play cornerback at an NFL level. So every one of these guys, including Zach Pickens, that are getting back in the mix, they got to prove to their specific position coaches that, hey, coach, I'm ready to go, and I want to be in consideration for that game day activation.
So for Washington, Jaden Daniels still no practice, but the word is, Tom, from multiple reports that they're going to see how he looks on Friday. Where are you sitting on that? You're a veteran looking at these injury reports when you don't practice all week, and then you try to go on Friday at the quarterback position. You're a rookie. You got a rib injury. We don't know the severity of it, or what exactly it is, but what do you think?
So when you go back and you watch the tape of the game, he hurt his rib on the very first play of the game and then suffered through about another 10 plays before he came out of the game. In every single play after that, he kind of touched or grabbed the area that was bothering him. What is his pain tolerance? Is he willing to take one of the most painful shot in the numbing business in the NFL in order to get on the field and get some relief over the period of time? Or is it going to be such a painful situation for him that it's going to affect his accuracy, his willingness to run? There was even a couple of runs after he injured it that he kind of laid down at the defender's feet. Listen, all due respect in the world to Jaden Daniels. He has got a bright future ahead of him. He's got to do what is the safest for his future. And if he can take that pain-numbing shot and he's willing to, you might consider that. But if he doesn't, let Marcus Mariota play.
So you say pain-numbing. Is the shot itself painful?
The shot itself is one of the most painful shots that you could possibly take in order to try to get relief in the area. And the thing about shots in the NFL, you have to tell them specifically where you need that shot to go in, because if they're a little bit off, it cannot work as effectively as if it's exactly on the spot. And having had that shot before, it's not pretty. It keeps you up at night, and it's not fun going into that locker room before kickoff and say, okay, Doc, I'm ready. Let's get this done.
The interesting thing, and talking to Travis Smith, the Bears defensive line coach, what he tells his players in terms of whoever plays, it's mindless and faceless. You just play who plays in front of you.
Right.
There's no name attached. So get ready for Marcus Mariota. Get ready for Jaden Daniels. Doesn't matter who plays.
I think Eric Washington said kind of the same thing at the podium. They're not going to change their offense specifics and the style and what they want to do because one quarterback is playing and the other one's not. It's about playing the Washington Commanders. They only install one offense. They don't install an offense for Jaden Daniels and then one for Marcus Mariota. It's about one offense that the Commanders are all taught.
Well, Jaden Daniels off to a great start, and Marcus Mariota had a great game against Carolina in his performance, completing better than 70% of his passes, couple of touchdown throws, no interceptions. When we come back, we'll hear from Jack Sanborn. Tom and I met with him earlier today here at Hallis Hall. This is Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network. Welcome back to Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network. With Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak, joined our special guest as we're brought to you by IGS Energy, Bears linebacker Jack Sanborn. He's been with us before. I know he'll be doing it again. Good to see you, Jack. Always a big smile on your face. How you feeling?
Good. Great to be here.
Yeah. What'd you do in the bye week?
I was here for the most part, and then actually over the weekend went to Austin, Texas.
Okay. Just had a little fun. What's that main street in Austin, the big one?
6th Street?
Yeah, I've never been there, but I heard about 6th Street. A good time?
Yeah, it was a solid time. I mean, we went primarily for one of my buddies is a big UT fan, so they were playing Georgia, and thought it was a good opportunity.
Yeah, tell us about the game. What's your scouting report on that? Well, if you had to wrap that up in a scouting report, what would you say?
There were a lot of turnovers in the game. So I wouldn't say great offensive play, but I mean, both teams were pretty solid. But Georgia definitely got the upper hand.
Hey, Jack, you and I both being local guys, and I always had to designate my mom as my ticket manager once we started having some success. Have you designated anybody in your family as your home game ticket manager?
Oh, my mom's been it for the most part, and especially with London. I mean, I think London was the big one where she had to kind of coordinate everything with the amount of people that wanted to go to London to support the team and support myself and everybody else.
You know, that was my 7th international trip as a player and a broadcaster, and it's the first time that we've ever stayed out in the country where it was more of a training camp atmosphere than it was staying at a hotel in a city and everybody taking off in different directions after practice. How did you like that for your first trip, being kind of out in the country?
You were right. It kind of felt like when we went to Indianapolis last year for joint practices and kind of just being with the guys in the hotel for an extended period of time because we got there, we arrived Tuesday morning, and we still had some time to get out, like guys on Tuesday and then a little bit on Friday were able to get out and go down to London. But you're right, we were far away from London, about an hour and a half out. So a lot of times you did have to stay at the hotel, and I thought that was a good time to hang out with guys, play cards, do whatever. And, I thought it was a good trip. And I think overall it was definitely better to go early. I couldn't imagine kind of getting there later because I think even during the week, I mean, getting adjusted to the sleep, getting adjusted to everything like that, it definitely is a different environment out there.
When we came home, I don't know how you felt, Tom, because we got home right around, 12:30 and got home. We drive a lot longer than Jack and the guys do out here in the northern suburbs. But I had no problem. I got up at normal time and
coming back.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wasn't
it was
that awesome?
definitely easier coming back.
Did you feel that way too, Tommy?
Yeah, it felt a lot easier coming back than going there.
Did you hit the golf simulator in there? They had a simulator.
We hit the golf course, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Who was in your group?
Me, TJ, and Chris Glazer.
Okay.
And it was a good
Offensive
little
lineman.
time. Yeah, but
Did you hit him straight?
it was
Good
pouring
putting?
rain. I mean, in typical London fashion, it was pouring rain, and so that wasn't great. But it was actually a good little time. It made it enjoyable and made us have a lot of experiences.
One thing I noted, it was peaceful out there. It was quiet. You hear the birds chirping in the morning.
But I know the front nine was absolutely brutal. And then
Did you talk in an English accent a bunch when you were out there on the course?
no, strictly American.
Hey, Jack, so a quick question about the Washington Commanders. So Jaden Daniels, you don't know what his situation is leading up to the game, but then they have Marcus Mariota, and he's an RPO quarterback. So Jack Sanborn, the linebacker, are you involved in the game planning a little bit more when you face a running quarterback as opposed to facing a passing quarterback?
I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to exactly what type of personnel they're really utilizing.
Okay.
But, I mean, and we do have game plan from me in the game especially and certain personnel groupings. But like you were saying about Mariota, I mean, I remember playing him 2 years ago when he was in Atlanta, and very similar stuff they were doing in Atlanta with him at quarterback to what Kingsbury is doing right now with Daniels. So, overall, I mean, I don't think the offense is going to change whether who's in there, but at the end of the day, it's about us and, playing to our rules and playing to our ability and, being on the same page and making sure whoever's out there and whatever they're trying to do that we're ready to stop it.
Yeah, with Marcus Mariota in the lineup, for me, it would have my radar up a little bit more because he's got nothing to lose. He's not auditioning for 17 games or to become the starter there. He's there to hold down the fort for a game or two. And when you have a quarterback that still has his skill level and probably likes to run it more than throw it, he would, increase my awareness of him at the quarterback position.
For sure. I mean, he's a guy that's been in the league and been in big games and been in the league and has won games. And, I mean, he can for sure go out there and throw the ball, run the ball, but at the end of the day, win games. And, I mean, that's what he's done that many a time. So it's not like, there's a big, drop-off or a big, game plan changes, whichever quarterback is in the game. There's definitely some continuity.
Jack Sanborn, our guest here on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. You've been in the league a while now, so when you see young quarterbacks, sometimes they look young, sometimes they play through it as the season goes on, sometimes they don't. And I was looking at some statistical work by this Twitter handle, NFL Notifications. I want to give them their props. They did an analysis of how many quarterbacks throw on a percentage basis on their first read. And Caleb Williams is in the top 5 of those not throwing on their first read, which means they're reading the field. Jaden Daniels is doing it 70-something% of the time going to the first read. I'm sure in your analysis and your tape study, you see these things as well. Is that help you decipher a young quarterback who actually is young NFL-wise, but he played so many college games, nearing 60 times. I mean, he's got some games under his belt. But does that help you prepare?
I mean,
stuff like that.
Just going off him, I remember him in college. I mean, we actually played against him when he was at Arizona State. I mean, and going off of kind of the first read. I mean, one thing that's so dynamic about him is his ability to then take off, and you see that a lot of times. If maybe the first read isn't open, maybe he's not looking for the second read, but with his legs, he's able to expand, get out of the pocket, and I mean, he's done a really good job of once he gets out of the pocket, not necessarily running right away, but also looking downfield and able to hit guys, and that's why it's going to be so big, just staying in coverage, staying on guys, because he does have that ability to expand the play and then in return get guys open that way. But like I said, I mean, he's very dynamic in what he does and how he does it, and to see the steps that he's kind of taken in the passing game from where he was when I played him in college has really been something to watch.
Yeah, and you got to stop the run. I mean, they get explosives. They have a lot of every back, including Jaden, when he runs 20-plus yard runs. Each of them have at least 2 this season, and I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but explosives are hard to get against good defenses. So how do you feel about the way the run defense, maybe you get a gash here and there, but you guys have really, hunkered down over the course of a game if it happens early or if it happens late.
Yeah, I mean, and Kingsbury over there is doing a really good job of kind of changing his run game from where they were when he was in Arizona, and just the variety that they have in the run game, incorporating the college run game with all the counter T-pull OTs, reads off of it and, a lot of different stuff. So it really tests the rules kind of a defense. So that's kind of what we're going to have to be big on, is just understanding each person's job and understand your role, and also being aggressive against it and attacking.
Jack, if I was an offensive lineman, I would look towards the sideline with you and Kyler Gordon standing there. If you come into the game, I know you're part of my blocking responsibility. If Kyler Gordon comes in the game, sometimes he's the responsibility of a running back or whomever has him. Are you guys interchangeable? Can you run the same? Can they call the same defense whether Jack's in the game or Kyler's in the game?
I think there are some things that are different as to who's in the game, but for the most part, a lot of calls can be interchangeable. And Kyler does a really good job at getting in the box too, and playing little dirty football in there. And at the same time, I'll be out in the split, and I'll be outside. So I think we're very interchangeable in how we do it. It's not like if one person's in, it's drastically different. Obviously, I'm not going to be manning up guys in the slot as often as Kyler is and stuff like that, but for the most part, I think it's a good little continuity and good little change up.
Becoming more familiar with this defense at home or on the road. Do you like being on the road where you can hear the quarterback cadence and seeing if he becomes consistent with it? Or do you like being at home where you can't hear anything and you're just kind of reacting to the movement of the football?
A little bit of both. I think everyone loves that kind of feeling of going on the road in another person's environment and taking care of business and kind of shutting the crowd down and doing all those kind of things. But at the same time, there's nothing like Soldier Field, especially the past year and a half. Right. Especially starting off this year, the place has been absolutely rocking. And when it's towards the end of the game there and the crowd's getting as loud as they can while we're on defense, I think we're much more comfortable in that spot than the offense is.
Jack Sanborn, our guest, our remaining moments with the Bears linebacker here on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. You're a guy that just has to be on full alert at any moment. As Tom always says, there's never a notification. It's time to go. You're getting a handful of snaps a game defensively, but you're playing as a core special teams player. Mentally, is that the biggest part of your game right now, is staying aware at every possible moment when the base defense is going to be called out there?
Yeah, but I think I'm much better at it than I was last year. And I think, like you said, the biggest thing is kind of just mentally, because you're not in there on every single snap. You don't really have the flow of the game. The understanding of the flow of the game is kind of tough to read. But I think this year I'm a lot more prepared for it than I was really last year. Not saying I wasn't prepared for it last year at all, but it's just the second year.
Like used to it.
Yeah, exactly. Used to it. And I have a very good idea of what Flus is going to call when he's going to call certain personnel groupings, so it's definitely been a little better.
What I respect about Jack here, Tommy, and I think you'll agree because we love the way you play. We absolutely do. We call it out on the broadcast all the time. It's all gas, no brakes, 100% of the time. And you make plays. Yeah, you got to live, right? You got to. If you could describe what that has been like over the last several years for you, and knowing that when you get an opportunity, you got to make it just to hey, listen, man, I can do this too. Like, I'm good at this.
Yeah, I think that's been how my career kind of has unfolded, is just taking advantage of opportunities, especially, you see it across the league everywhere, though. Guys coming in, whether they're undrafted or they've been cut from teams, and it's no matter who you are, you got to make the most of the opportunities that you're given and while you're out there on the field. So I think that's kind of what this game is about, and, taking advantage of that.
All right, hold half a second. I got to grab a prop for you.
Oh, boy. He's only got a couple minutes. Well, I don't know what he's doing. It must be his jersey. It's got to be the 57. So we're on Zoom, folks. So what do you got?
But so Jack, this is the jersey I wore in the Super Bowl, okay?
Oh, wow.
So you see this right here?
Wow.
It used to be a onesie, Jack.
That's on purpose right there.
Yes, it is on purpose. And everybody, you can't watch, but Jack's jaw just dropped.
Right. And so modern day football, and I don't know.
You used to tuck that under?
The elastic, huh?
You used to tuck that under?
Tuck it under and button it. and button it right there.
Could wear that to bed.
So as anybody ever trying to tug your jersey or get a hold of you, they couldn't.
Oh, God.
And so
see now we just got it all Velcroed on.
Right. But so do you tuck your jersey in?
No, I actually do not. Mine,
right, so
it's nowadays it's tight enough where really you don't have. It's like almost untucked jerseys in a way.
These ones are super tight too, but it's kind of that extra level.
Oh yeah, you got assurance that thing ain't coming up.
Yeah. Hey, my question to Tom before we let this man go is, why is that not encased in glass, hanging on a wall? It's your Super Bowl jersey.
I'll buy it in the closet.
Listen, I'll buy it off you and present it to Jack as a gift.
Listen,
I mean, come on.
I love the fact that Olin Kreutz wore 57. I love the fact that Jack Sanborn, like we were walking in Kansas City.
Right.
We saw the guy with the 57 jersey on, chased him down, turned him around, and it said Sanborn.
No way.
Yeah,
it happened. It happened.
And, hey, listen, Jack, I appreciate you, wearing 57 and playing the way you do. I don't care what number you wore. However, I like to show the new generation the old style jerseys, because if you ever went and Tony Medlin had that hanging in your locker,
you might think twice about it.
I think it was a joke for the day.
That's hilarious. Well, it's been fun for Tom and I the last 24 hours. We went local. I did something with Cole Kmet for our Bears Game Day live show coming up next week. We got Jack Sanborn. And I don't know, I'm sure you are, but Tom and I did our Bears Etc. podcast number 105. Check it wherever you get your podcast. Sebastian Maniscalco from Rolling Meadows, the comedian and entertainer and movie star, kind enough to join us. So check it out. We went local. It was all local.
Wow.
So we love the local guys.
Oh, yeah.
Go Bears. Have a great game on Sunday.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Jack Sanborn. Back with more on Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. Calling all Bears fans. Want unforgettable access to see the Chicago Bears play at Soldier Field this season? Well, VIP official ticket packages are now available for every home game. Unlock access to exclusive ticket packages that may include entry to Wynn Stadium hospitality lounges, pregame sideline credentials, and the Chicago City Pass. Visit ChicagoBearsVIP.com or call 866-202-5755 for more information. Again, ChicagoBearsVIP.com or call 866-202-5755. Don't miss this exclusive opportunity with Chicago Bears VIP. Jeff and Tom with you on Bears Weekly and on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. You got a thought on the onesie real quick? Because that was some funny stuff.
Well, so to let all of our listeners see what we are talking about, I suggest that I'm going to send you a picture and you can put it on your X package, and then people can go there and see it. Because when back in the day in the 80s when we used to wear these onesies, they were our jerseys that they would kind of tuck underneath our butt, and then we'd button them just like a toddler's onesie. And so I think everybody would get an appreciation of when I show it to the modern-day player, and they couldn't even consider wearing something like that. It seems so archaic.
Right.
But as an offensive lineman, to keep from getting grabbed and your jersey tugged, you went to uncomfortable lengths during the game to do that.
Yeah, well, so it was uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable.
Okay.
And you think when it got tugged a couple times, how much more uncomfortable it got.
Yeah, I don't want to imagine that.
Right.
All right, so I mentioned Travis Smith, the Bears defensive line coach. The defensive assistants were available today here at Hallis Hall. Got into talking about the defensive line and a lot of the minutia that goes into making a good rush 4 as one. And he did a great job explaining where this pass rush is going right now.
I think it's doing really good. I think it's carried over from last year, how we finished those last 10 weeks of the season, even with the new additions that we have with our rookies, with DT, with Chris, with BC. They fit right in really well. So they are a really close-knit group off the field, which helps, I think, with the production and the chemistry on the field.
Do you feel you have a good variety of traits and skill sets with this group? I'll do something a little different that keeps the offensive linemen a little jumpy maybe, because you're not sending out the same 4. They get used to seeing what they're going to do. Now they really don't know.
No question. It's if you look at a group like back in the day when you had 4 main rushers and that's who you played 90% of the time, they had to prepare for 4 players. When you have 8, well, now we have 8 or 9. Now they got to prepare for 9 different D linemen. So when you ask about, yes, they're all individually, they all do have a different strength and skill set. But as when they're out there as 4, they do work well as one together. But I do think that does present not so much a problem, but it does present an element for the offense that they have to prepare for.
We were getting to know Chris Williams a little bit. What have you learned about his pass rush ability from the defensive tackles?
He does have a great flexibility to rush both inside, which you've seen more, but also outside. If you watch Cleveland, he was a little bit more on the perimeter, but he's fit right in where he's bumped inside and helped us and gave us some productive snaps where he's been inside as a nose, as a 3, but also he's played a little bit where at the end. And that's another guy that's similar to D-Walk that gives us that flexibility where no matter whether it's just, hey, we're subbing the guys with our rotations, or if someone gets nicked up, or he can jump in there and rush both outside and inside.
That day you guys traded for Montez Sweat?
Like anything, I mean, I leave those decisions up to Holes and Flus, but we're always the more rushers we bring in there, the more excited we're going to integrate them to the group as long as they buy into the way we play. But as you see, he's done a phenomenal job. It's from that week 6, 7, whatever it was, last 10 weeks of the season to where we are now. It's obviously made a big impact on the disposition mentality, the demeanor that our guys play with.
Were you excited?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
How would you describe kind of that overall play you're talking about? Not just the sack totals, but everything he brings for this defense as a whole.
I think it kind of pairs back with my answer a second ago was about how he factors. He has 2.5 sacks, I think, right now. But what I look at, too, if you look at our group as a whole, almost every single D lineman that's played in the game beside Hardy has a sack right now. Bill, all of them. Part of that is them. Is it just him? No. But is he commanding slides? Is he commanding double teams? Is he opening up other one-on-ones for other guys? Yes, he is. Not just him. Dex is. D-Walk. D-Walk's got a good amount of pressure in there. He's winning one-on-ones, too, where it works together where, hey, yeah, we all want to get double digits right now, but 2, we're trying to win games, and winning games is everyone doing their job, handling their one-on-one matchups, and he's commanding some more less one-on-ones, but also 2, it's allowing other guys got to step up. If you do get the one-on-one, you got to come alive and be productive. So it is helping in that sense. Yes.
Is Billing's role different this year versus when you had him last year?
I wouldn't say his role is different. I would say some of the alignments might he's played a little bit more on the guard as opposed to the center. From that sense, it is, but his role is still very similar. He's just been aligned a little bit differently. If you look how we've played our front.
Sure. Do those alignments, it sounds simple, does that lead to the quarterback hits, the sacks, like where he specifically is, like making that, I guess, an easier path for him?
Some have shown up where he's been on the edge of a guard, and it's shown up too, but if we've talked about, like, look at last year, early on, I don't know what week it was, we played Tampa Bay. He had like a 40% quarterback pressure rate. Some of that it wasn't so much the alignment, it was the disposition and like the technique he was rushing with, gaining ground, crossing the line of scrimmage, penetrating. Once you get him moving, it's hard to stop him. So early on in season 2, Tennessee this year, there was a couple other games. He had the same thing. He had a high quarterback pressure rate. It was more the technique he was playing with rather than the alignment, but to your question, there are situations in this season where he's been aligned on the edge of a guard where it has benefited him when he's played the right way, yes.
Relative to last year, is Javon getting an increased number of snaps facing doubles?
I don't know if he is getting – I couldn't – from that, what he's getting, he's playing a higher percentage of snaps, number one, especially early in the season. But 2, there's a good rotation there where he's not in on every first, second down snap, too, where when he does get in there in third down – it's not first, second, third, where it's 5th play in a series. But also, too, it's we've talked about it plenty, and here he's in different shape. He's different flexibility. He's a different person than he was last year. Just like he's different right now than he was last week. He takes it personal to constantly improve.
On stunts and twists and things like that, it's probably simple for us just to say, oh, you know what, you just do this and you go. There's a lot of technique to it. Has there been an increased excellence in terms of those guys mastering that particular?
I think it's time on task. Last year there was a lot of new guys and they're rookies. D-Walk was new. Now they have a lot of work together. So part of that stuff is, yes, we call a game or a stunt or a twist. It's executed, but then 2, there's things where protections might change. They slide to him where they got to have a feel where they can cover natural. Even in a 4-man rush, there might not be a game called, but a lot of times in a green rush, they just cover each other. Where on the offense, it's going to look like it's a game. It's not. It's really just them working together and playing off of each other as they overlap and cover, or they have to levels in front of the quarterback.
All right, Tom, a lot of football lingo there for a defensive lineman. Offensive lineman, listening to it, what are you dissecting there? He talked a lot about how he grades, the factor grade. Is is what you do command in doubles and penetration and disruption and how you turn the ball back with the back, running the ball, or get the back off his track and the quarterback off his spot.
Well, first of all, he talked about how many guys he has at his disposal. When you think of the New York Sack Exchange, you think of the Purple People Eaters in Minnesota or the Steel Curtain in Pittsburgh. They primarily had all of their success with 4 guys. Now you have a team that has 11 guys, and they could possibly have 13. So that makes it really difficult for the offensive linemen to get the tendencies of the defensive linemen they're playing against because they're so interchangeable. But when they're interchangeable, they can do all these things, like you talked about them running stunts. And when you can run stunts with multiple guys in multiple different directions and multiple balances, it's really hard to designate your protection according to the position where, say, Montez or Darryl or Javon is. It really makes it difficult when you have that many defensive linemen that play such good football, because it's hard for the offensive line as a whole to get any rhythm against who they're playing against according to how they're lined up.
No matter what happens on the field with the skill position, it still comes down to that. And the development of that front, we talked about it significantly in the preseason, off-season. It had to develop, and I think it is. And the same could be said for the offensive line. We'll get into the offensive side of the ball with Shane Waldron when we come back. That's Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak, and this is Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by CDW. People to get it. Jeff and Tom. Coordinator talk, Tommy. Before we get to that, though, the offensive and defensive line improvement in the last 3 weeks, especially for the offensive line, the whole season, the steady improvement of the defensive line. Are you feeling that right now?
Yeah. You got the kind of consistency in the lineup. You have familiarity with the offense every single rep, every single snap, every single meeting, and the importance of that these coaches have been talking about the walkthroughs. And I think it's a modern day meeting that we basically did in the classroom. Now they do it on their feet. I said every single rep that you get to work together, the better you're going to become.
All right, Shane Waldron at the podium today spoke at length about a lot of different topics, but one of them is what I'm going to call communication is king, and there's been a lot of communication going on between Waldron and his offensive skill set.
I think for us, confidence, the collective group, being at an elite communication level throughout the last several weeks there. But as far as the feel each Monday, I think, around football long enough where, having that steady approach where, when things are going well, still have to approach Monday with that mindset of correcting, getting better, and improving throughout the course of the year. And the same, coming off the losses at the beginning of the year as well. So, having a steady approach, obviously having the confidence building throughout the group right there is something that we've seen on the field and something that we're looking to continue to develop. I think the big thing for Self Scout, too, for me is, that's a weekly process. I know, as different things evolve and technologies, it's something that our departments do a great job, whether it's analytics or the different information some of our younger coaches provide for us on a weekly basis. But then we get a chance to have an off time and truly look back. I think the big thing, obviously, is starting faster, keep putting an emphasis on that. And a lot of that is going to come down to opening drive, third down conversions. Knowing that if you can you can convert on third downs, you can extend those opening drives, you can extend those first quarter drives and play a little bit more efficient at the beginning of games. But it's also not to say that if you play well throughout the course of the game, have a chance to rebound from those things if it doesn't start perfectly. But that would be the biggest takeaway from the week off and looking back at some self-scout.
Well, that's the next big step, Tom, is starting fast because they haven't scored many points in the first quarter.
Right. As much as I listen to all this stuff about how the Bears have been developing and communicating and everything, I think we almost have to reset this thing, a reboot that you want to say, going into Washington, because your communication in Houston and then your communication at Indianapolis were challenged because you have a supportive opponent crowd. And I think you're going to have the same thing at the Washington Commanders game. And it's going to be a loud atmosphere because they're building this momentum with Jaden Daniels, even though he may not play. So they are going to get tested about their communication development with all the moving parts, because you're not going to be able to verbally get all your commands out at the line of scrimmage. It's going to have to be something that you're going to have to know from experience. And, that's going to be the biggest test this week.
And no matter who quarterbacks Washington, stopping that run game is going to be critical. If there is an area that the Bears want to look to see the improvement is the average yards per carry allowed and limiting explosives. This is Eric Washington, the Bears defensive coordinator.
Run, there are a lot of variables. There are run fit variables. There are gap control variables. There's some of these things. And there's a lot of determination in that room to make sure that we move that particular part of our defense into the top 5 the way that we are with some of the others.
If Jaden is able to play, do you anticipate like a different menu of plays for him, just knowing he is vulnerable with the rib injury?
No. If he's out there, I'm going to anticipate him being at his best, and I won't try and anticipate or speculate about what they're going to do with him. We're going to anticipate him being at his best and doing the things that we've been seeing. They have multiple personnel groups. He knows exactly what he wants to try and accomplish, how he wants to attack within those personnel groups situationally. One of the things that somehow we can ascertain at times is a tendency within a personnel group. And there's what I would say extreme balance within every personnel group. There's no tendency as far as run and pass within each groups. So there's tremendous balance, and we have to really do a great job of utilizing our keys and trusting what we're seeing.
Interesting little nugget last year with Eric Bieniemy, Tom. Washington threw the ball, dropped the throw more than any other team in the NFL. Now, Clint Kingsbury, who is the air raid coach right in college, he is running the football. There is balance.
Okay, but this is what I'm looking at is if I'm a defensive coach getting prepared to play the Washington Commanders. Their right tackle is in concussion protocol. His backup has a bad neck. The center has a bad thumb, and the left guard has a bad ankle. So I'm going to go up, and I'm going to see what ankle is taped. And then I'm going to see if you have your thumb taped extra. And then I'm going to see who's playing right tackle. A lot of that, according to the plan of attack, is going to factor in as much as who's playing quarterback. And I respect Cliff Kingsbury. I think he's a good football coach. And he's done a great thing with Jaden Daniels. However, we just got done doing a 10-minute segment about the variety of defensive linemen that they can sick at this offense. And when I know that they have this many injuries and hiccups and the injury report leading up to this game, I got to check all of them out. I got to test them. Hey, Montez, who do you want to rush against?
Well, he knows him better than anybody.
Exactly. That's another element here. And, when last week when I was watching the Kansas City-San Francisco game, they said, Chris Jones is going to line up against everybody but Trent Williams. And that's exactly what he did. Montez, it's 3rd and 8. Who do you want to go against? Whatever arsenal of players is in there. So it's just something that you got to pay attention to. You got to look at. You got to do a little pregame investigative work.
All right, Tom, one segment to go, and we will preview a little bit more of this Washington game and a few surprises along the way before we wrap things up. That's Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak, and this is ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. This segment of Bears Weekly brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an in-clinic or virtual appointment and start feeling better tomorrow. Jeff and Tom, as we cross-promote our programming with the Bears and our Bears Etc. podcast, number 105 just dropped today. Tom and I had a good fortune of sitting down by Zoom with one of the funniest people on the planet, Sebastian Maniscalco. Here's a portion of what we discussed.
I told my 2nd grade teacher, Mrs. Carlin, that I was going to be a stand-up comedian when we did Career Day, and they looked at me like, what? I was watching Johnny Carson back then like it was game tape.
Right. Little Dick Cavett, just for kicks, too. Little Dick Cavett.
It was always in my blood. I grew up with a very funny family. I mean, we were either laughing or crying. There was nothing in between, and we always chose to laugh and bury everything else under the rug. So, it was no mistake that I'm a comedian.
One of my better friends is a Tom Dreesen, a comedian. And so when I went to see his opening act, he used to open for Sinatra all the time. And so I watched his act from the audience, and then after I got to go out to dinner with Sinatra and have a great time with him. But my question to you, did you ever open for anybody, and did you have limitations, or was it, hey, Sebastian, you go out there with your act and sell this crowd so when I come out there, they're ready to go?
Before we get into that, you went out to dinner with Sinatra?
Yeah.
Okay. Where did you go, and did he have like a knot of cash that he was tipping people with?
So it was a pretty interesting story. So he introduced me on stage, gave me a hug, told me, "Hey, kid, this song's for you," sang My Kind of Town, Chicago. We walked out of the stage door, and we drove up to Kelly Mondelli's on North Clark Street. Wow. And so when we walked in, the restaurant was empty. There was 4 cops sitting at a front table next to the door. And they came up and they said, "Hey, don't sit in this chair because Mr. Sinatra likes to sit with his back to the wall and his face to the door." And it was Barbara Sinatra, myself, Tom Dreesen, basketball coach Ray Meyer, and Tim Reitman, one of the tight ends from our 85 team.
Wow. You know, Ray Meyer used to live 2 blocks away from me growing up. He was on the corner 2 blocks down. And, wow, Ray Meyer, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
All I want to know, outside of the Chicagoland area, do you ever have to explain Jardiniere to any of your friends that you meet outside of our Chicago world?
I don't even hear Jardiniere until I get to Chicago. Jardiniere, this is the first time I've heard Jardiniere since the last time I was in Chicago. As soon as you leave Chicago, Jardiniere stays there. It's hard to even explain it to people. Right. And beef, a beef sandwich. I talk about beef sandwiches. Like, what's that? What's that? It's beef. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are very specific to Chicago that a lot of people just don't understand. But I mean, I can't wait to get back there and start knocking down some Portillos and beef sandwiches and pizza and the whole deal.
Memorable experience being at a Bears game. I'm assuming you've been to a Bears game. And by the way, after your show, the Bears play the New England Patriots on Sunday the 10th. You should be at Soldier Field, my friend.
I'm invited to that game. However, I have to go to Ohio that night to perform. So I'm trying to figure out how I can make that work. And I haven't been to a Bears game since 1981. My father took me.
You're like 5.
8. My father took me. We sat in the end zone. This is old Soldier Field, and it was freezing. And I haven't been back since. But yeah, I know. I gotta get out to a game.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, that was a lot of fun. And I asked him at the end there, give us 3 icons in sports that he'd have dinner with, past or present. He went with MJ. He went with Carlton Fisk and Harry Carey, and that's a pretty good lineup. Tom, we had a lot of fun with him and a lot of fun tonight. That's going to wrap us up. For Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks to all our guests and our producers. Coming up next, Bleck and Abdallah. Have a good night, everybody. It's Bears Washington, 3:25 on ESPN. Coming up on Sunday. Good night.